What's up, people? So, rocking the Sublime shirt today. If you don't know about Sublime, get knowledgeable. So, the movie that I'm reviewing right now is The Long Walk. It is actually one of the few Stephen King books that I never read. I don't know if it's a short story or a novel, but it is a Stephen King story, and I've never read it, which it's unusual for me to have not really read too many things by Stephen King. Particularly, I read what I thought would be all his stuff, but things pop up out of the woodwork on you all the time. Now, this movie immediately, if you are a parent, it taps right into your emotions and seeps from them because you just couldn't imagine. You just couldn't imagine. So it feels genuine, and I think that's ultimately a good thing, for any movie. Because if you are a parent and similar circumstances were to occur in a world, especially where you had boys, like we do live in a world where men are always subject to a draft, and that's just the reality of the world. So if they decide that they want to have a war, they will come take you. And much like what goes on here, if they want you, they're going to take you. And that's the way that it works. So it's realistic in that sense. Now, um, this is a boys will be boys movie. This is not, it's not to say that it's not for women, but there's no real women roles in this that play any huge part aside from fleeting moments and recollections, which obviously women are important to everyone's life. If your life doesn't exist without a woman and it doesn't exist without a man. So the reality is we're all important. And that's something that we should accept in the world. So as I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking this seems like an anti-capitalist allegory. Now, I have never read the book, like I said, so I kind of hope it's not that as I start to get into it. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to see things from the beginning like they're going to be at the end. So you always remain hopeful. But endless production for the machine, the speech by the general figure who, you know, it's just you need growth, boys. And ultimately, the capitalist machine needs growth. It has to feed on it at all times. If it doesn't, it can't exist. So, the in perpetuity, the capitalist machine will always eat its own tail and just recycle and eat the next tail as well, because that's the nature of the beast. That's why companies come and go and they flush, and things always just keep rolling. It's like a steam engine and you ain't gonna stop it. The cinematography is inspired, and it seems to imbue a sense of high shadow. Oh, you waking up? Yeah, she's good. So it seems to try to imbue a sense of purpose into the reasoning behind why they shot this film. And it does, oh, it does translate well as far as something that came off paper, which it makes me think it may have been a short story. I go look it up after this video. I probably should have looked it up before this video. La 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 la. So the movie's moving along, and I start to just question why. Why all these things are happening? Why does anyone agree to it? Why the insistence on the way that it occurs? And it reminds me of the questions I've always had my whole life about politics as they exist inside this country. I've always had a lot of whys. Why does all this happen? And quite frankly, people have always been like, you don't talk about politics, it's not polite. Then it turns out the reason they were convinced to do that is because there's a huge fraud pipeline and lots of people are getting rich off of it at the behest of the taxpayers, but unbeknown to them, and illegitimately gained in many cases. And I think that we all know it at this point. So, boy, you just lip smacking over there. We'll get you a treat after I'm done this video, okay? I promise. I know you don't like to hear about afters. It is what it is. So, there's a good script here. It really works. It's pretty strong. It creates a good conversation, and I think that the acting is very natural. The conversations are very natural. Nothing seems overly scripted, except perhaps the overly dramatic general figure. But as the relationships in this movie develop, hi, that's Afton. I'm gonna be doing a video with her after this one. So, as the relationships in this movie develop, I felt like my relationships with the characters developed as well. They progressed, and there were much true to life. There were some characters I felt neutral about, some characters I liked, some characters I disliked. And some I even was like, fuck that dude. Screw that guy. Sorry about the swear, Facebook. Don't demonetize this video that doesn't make any money. That wouldn't even make sense. What you gonna do? Take money from me? Goodness gracious. So, love and hate in equal measure, much like life. Some people carry love more, some people carry hate more. That's why the balance ends up basically the same. Some people carry them in equal measure, but the world basically carries it in equal measure no matter what. That's why it sucks, because the neutrality of people leaves the love hate equal. And then the people who actually have a lot of love and the people who have a lot of hate are also equal. And you're like, why? If some of you neutral people who have love and hate inside you just decided to ditch some of the hate, we could win the fight. Let's do it. The rules in the game seem uneven, and that's annoying. Now, that seems like the rules in every game that I've ever played. So, the rules are shitty to you when they're working against you, and they're okay when they're working for you. That's the way rules are. That's what you're gonna do, you know what I mean? That's just the nature of the beast as far as it goes. Some of the kids were annoying, but it wasn't in like a way that you couldn't handle someone, if that makes sense. Like, I know we've all known annoying people throughout our lives, and sometimes they're really hard to take, and sometimes, yeah, you can get by with it, you know what I mean? But as an overall matter, they did a good job making me care about the whole cast. Even the people that I didn't like that much, I didn't want them to die. Although I knew they all were gonna die. But I wanted them all to get home. And so it gets quite tense as you're going through the movie. The movie is like, who's gonna do this and who's gonna do that. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. You know what I mean? Um, I think it's a good thing when a movie keeps you a little bit tense. It's certainly not a bad thing. If you are an overworked and or you've ever been an overworked person or someone who puts in very long hours, you understand about the third wind. Regular people know about the second wind. Oh, I caught my second wind. Well, when their second wind runs out, those people are done. People who have to work 20 hours understand about the third wind because when you're done, you go past done into a zone that, yes, I know, I told you, I'm gonna do it. You're past tired, you're past weak, and you're past weary. there's no, there's nothing left but pushing. It's almost like a zombified state in a way, but you have lots of energy. And it's hard to explain to you if you've never actually done it at any point of your life, but I would suggest it. Don't use drugs to do it though. Just work because drugs do it in an artificial way. Not that I ever tried them. I know, dude. The dystopia in this movie is a very weird one. It's it just doesn't make as much sense as a lot of the other ones that you see. What they're doing, like, and it's hard to say it without spoiler alerting things. But even though it's a weird dystopia they have going on, it still shows the beauty of America. It really does. And past the beauty of America, it shows the beauty of friendship. And this current World Cup that we're in has actually shown a lot of the beauties of America to the world that they didn't know about. And also the beauty of easy friendship between people because it's a wonderful freaking thing, man. There's no reason why the most of us can't just be kind of friendly with each other. There's no reason why we can't. The world is just a much better place when we all spin together because we keep it rotating the right way. I There's a lot of things I want to talk about related to that, but let's just leave those for this. We're talking about this film, The Long Walk. Screw the government. I've always felt that way. But knowledge is power, and knowledge should never be repressed from any of us. Not what they consider forbidden knowledge or any other kind should never be repressed. This should never be distorted, although it already has been many times, and there's nothing we can do about that. But it shouldn't be, although it still is. Vengeance, no matter how much you ever get, turns out to never, ever really be enough. That's why feuds happen. They talk about brother for brother for brother, for cousin for cousin for cousin, down a line of people just killing each other for untold reasons, oftentimes, sometimes for reasons that you think you'd understand, but the blood vengeance never stops. And it's horrific. So by this point in the movie, I've realized this is way beyond a critique of capitalism. This is just a story about humanity, friendship, the ability to forgive, the inability to forgive, which is deadly and equally important. In every possible circumstance, you should just choose love. As much as you can express it in that circumstance. It doesn't mean you have to love everyone, take them inside your home. But when someone is having a hard time and you could easily make it worse or better, they should probably just make it better. And I think that we all really know that inside our hearts. The only part of this movie that I didn't like was the distance that they walked, because, just to be frank about it, with the exception of elite athletes, people ain't doing this. I walk a lot at work and stuff like that, and there's no chance I could do this. And there'll be days where I walk 10 miles easily at work with a weed whacker, just whacking everything around in sight because there's so much stuff to do. And those are my favorite days. I love that shit. And I'm not trying to say I'm tired or anything like that, because it's not really a tiring day. But to walk the amount of miles these people walk, like, you're talking elite athleticism. There's no chance that I could even begin to walk that much, and I don't know too many people around me that could walk as much as I do at work. I know people that are like, I took my 5,000 steps. And I'm like, fucking took that shit by probably 10 o'clock. So, and I'm not trying to be a bragger. I'm just saying that I don't think it's realistic that laymen or just kids could do this. There's what they're saying in it. Not to mention when, so some little spoilers, like when feet are getting raw and stuff like that, like, you don't continue to walk. That's just the reality. As some kid who's never really been out your house and you're walking and, your feet start to get raw, you ain't walking on them still. You're not. People can say whatever they want, but I guess the movie would have been too short. So it is okay, though. It hits all the emotional beats that you wanted to, and it makes you think how stupid the Roman Colosseum idea is, and how no matter what, it continues. And it will never, ever go away. No matter what, it's always there in some form, in some aspect of our lives. And it's horrific. So, I didn't really care for the ending exactly. It didn't make me dislike the movie, but I didn't care for the ending exactly. It wasn't exactly what I wanted to happen. And so it was a slight letdown, which led me to give this movie a 9.5. Not quite the 10 it would have gotten if they did it exactly how I wanted them to, but nothing can be exactly how we want it to be in this world. That's reality. If you like dramas, if you like thrillers, if you like Stephen King, if you just like cool movies, check this one out. It is excellent. Have a good night.